Patient safety matters to me because I'm a patient, I'm a mother and a stepmother, and it matters that I know that my family will be treated safely when they have access to healthcare. And it matters because it's not just about them, though they are very important to me, but it's that everyone has the same opportunity. And so everyone should have access to safe care, and staff working in healthcare are provided with the tools, equipment, resources, time, whatever needed to provide safe care. So it's personally important, yes. It's also exciting. I've been transfixed by patient safety and the improvement of healthcare since Organisation with a Memory came out. So that's nearly 20 years ago. And I've always wanted to dedicate my time and efforts to contribute towards making safer care. I'm not a clinician, I don't have that personal expertise, that's not how I contribute. But I've always wanted to improve healthcare systems and ensure people learn from when things go wrong, but also when things go right. So the opportunity at Patient Safety Learning to create a charity that is solely focused on improving patient safety is just a real opportunity, and I feel very privileged to contribute to the work we're doing. So I think for me the ambition is to create mechanisms like the hub, tools like the hub, and networks of people collaborating for sharing learning and transforming healthcare. I think a blueprint for action is quite special. There are many, many reports on patient safety and improvements that are needed over the years, and many of them are incredibly erudite, written by astonishingly talented people with large research and evidence bases. I think what we do, or what we try and do in Blueprint for Action, is to bring all that knowledge together, but focus it on action. We've been reflecting the last 15 to 20 years. There's many initiatives to improve safety where people have been reflecting on the prevalence of unsafe care and what we need to do to improve it. There's been less attention, we think, on what is need to be done. So how people improve healthcare, either as a system, themselves as a professional within it, as a clinician, as a leader, as a worker. And so what we've tried to do in Blueprint for Action is to focus on the action. What is it that we need to do collectively? So it's a bit of a call for action, but it's also a description of what we as Patient Safety Learning will be doing and how we'll be prioritising our time and efforts. We're a small charity, we've got ambitions to grow that. We're UK focused, particularly in England at the moment, but we know there's a lot of interest in what we're doing internationally. But really what we want to do is to be able to contribute to that and provide tools, experience, guidance, networks of people together for improvement. So the hub is very, very important because it describes one thing that we think is needed that no one's really doing in quite the same way, and we're now having launched that, we can take that further forward. So for me, Blueprint for Action, it's in the name. It's a guide. It's a vision, but it's a framework for action for others and for us to take. Blame culture is bad. Blaming people is not a nice thing to do, so it's ethically not a very nice way of working within an organisation, feeling you're being blamed if something goes wrong. And particularly when you're working in a system that may be unsafe, it might not provide you with the tools and resources that you need or the opportunities to learn. So when people are blamed, they respond by feeling awful, being unmotivated. They're not necessarily in the environment where they can share their insight from what's gone wrong or what needs to improve, and hiding from that because they're scared of any consequences means the rich opportunity to learn from when things do go wrong, or the opportunities to say, oh, we could do better here. That's a missed opportunity, and it's a missed opportunity that NHS Improvement described this in their recent strategy as impacting on 11,000 avoidable deaths a year. So if we have a blame culture that doesn't encourage learning, it means we will continue to make the same mistakes as a healthcare system, as an organisation that we do. And a blame culture will continue that scale of unsafe care. So it's a really, really important issue. Many people have written about what we should do instead, and I think Don Barrick's report on blame culture is a fantastic read. And I don't think anyone disagreed with the actions that he suggested needed to be taken in that. The challenge is actually prioritising them and actually making sure that leadership takes those forward. There are examples of organisations. I mean, we awarded Merseycare an award, Patient Safety Award last year because of their excellent work in it. So there are organisations that are really tackling it. In our blueprint for action, you could spend the whole report talking about culture change and what's needed. I think culture change is quite a challenge to address. It's so big, it's so amorphous, it's so often entrenched in organisations. Where do you start? And I think you need to start with an honest assessment of where you are and where your organisation's culture is, and then start designing some tools to change that, whether they're leadership tools, whether they're practical tools, whether they're about staff engagement, patient engagement. So we outlined some of those within Blueprint for Action, but the whole report really cross-references to many others that are doing work. What we think is important is that organisations establish what their baseline is and their overall culture, or maybe little subcultures in different parts of their organisations. And then they have a plan to do something about it, and that plan is transparent, it's shared with their board, the public, staff, and patients, and there's a measurement of their progress against it. So lifting the lid on unsafe cultures and mixing my metaphor, shining a light on what improvements are needed. We've described in our report the three opportunities for engaging patients in improved patient safety. One is at the point of care, and we very clearly follow the vision of many others around patient engagement and say it isn't the responsibility of the patient and family members per se to protect themselves from unsafe care, but they can contribute to that. And where they want to contribute to that in being part of the healthcare team, having knowledge shared with them, being actively involved in making decisions in their care, and raising concerns if they're worried about something, escalating those concerns to someone that will listen to them if they don't feel they're being listened to. That's really very important. So we outline that element. When things go wrong, and things do go wrong, patients and family members need to be treated with the utmost respect and support in difficult times. We have a duty of candour that provides a legal framework for telling and engaging patients so that they understand what did go wrong and why. And the huge motive of many patients that I've had the privilege of working with and supporting over the years is that really many patients and families, when things go wrong, they want to know what's gone wrong and why, but they want to know that there will be insight drawn to inform improvements and that this will never happen to anyone again. So I think the patient voice and listening to them is absolutely critical, as well as linking to my third point, which is around the accountability that healthcare systems have for ensuring that patients receive and users of services receive safe care. So the third element is around patients, their advocacy role, their ability to inform and engage with leaders, to give insight and demonstrate why patient engagement is important, and really to promote actively patient engagement programs, and that leaders do prioritise patient safety. We've talked about it in the Blueprint for Action. Patient safety, we feel very strongly, is a core purpose of healthcare. It's not just one priority of many that can be traded off, and that's a very, very strong view of patients and families that work with us and have spent many years campaigning for improvements. We've described the need for patient safety to be professionalised, and I think that's often seen as staff within healthcare need to be more professional in how they approach patient safety, and we do mean that too. So I'll describe that first, but by professionalising patient safety, we're describing an organisation and industry where all all staff working within it are suitably qualified for undertaking their work. And it's quite clear that in people's training and how their professional development, that patient safety and human factors as a discipline isn't as well developed as it needs to be. So we think that there needs to be not only knowledge around patient safety and human factors for everyone working in healthcare, whether you're a leader, whether you're a support worker, whether you're a clinician, whether you're a manager, whoever. We need to understand better what knowledge they need to have and provide them with that knowledge. But importantly, it's about the competency framework of staff, so it is how they apply that knowledge, what skills they need, and what behaviours do they need to understand and demonstrate for safety. So that's a very strong core part of it. But the other, underpinning that is the need for standards for patient safety. If you look at other safety systems in other industries, or indeed look at safety systems that aren't patient safety in healthcare, you find that there are very clear standards that are expected, very clear goals, vision, capacities, expertise that's required, and that there are models of ways of behaving and reports that need to be written, publicly, transparently provided, and that provides the basis for regulatory review and indeed standards of professional practice. And we don't think those are as well developed as they need to be in patient safety. So it's the standardisation or creating standards for patient safety, and I think ultimately moving towards something that's much more like an accreditation framework for patient safety. We mentioned it a little bit in our blueprint for action, but it's developing thinking. We have organisations that develop investors for people, for good HR practice. Should we not have an accreditation for patient safety that we can describe where different levels of how good we are, what more we need to do, and provides a framework for organisations to lead and redesign for safety? Shared learning is really important for patient safety. We worked last year with Professor Carl McRae, who's an expert on safety systems and patient safety. And he described in the work he did for us that knowledge is often trapped within organisations, and we think that's true of patient safety. If we don't understand when things go wrong and when things go right and share that knowledge, we're destined to repeat the mistakes of the past and miss the opportunities to make improvements. So I think that's well understood, and I don't think anyone would disagree with it. Where I think the challenges are is not just around having staff that have the skills and insight to be able to think, oh, what could we do better here? How do we do that? But the means to share that knowledge. And so when staff have a problem that they might not know how to address, how do they source insight into making those improvements? How do they find that knowledge within their organisations, across organisations, and maybe even in other healthcare systems internationally? And there aren't really many structured means for doing that. There are clearly networks that are very effective. People can go to conferences, there are research papers, but there's no one central source for patient safety knowledge. And that's why we've created one in the hub, so that people can find the knowledge they need. And if they can't find it, then to ask the communities that we are setting up. And then in those communities, sharing that knowledge about what people have done to make those improvements, what barriers did they find, how did they overcome them, what advice would they give to others making improvements. So a real community that we want to support for improving patient safety. The hub is different from other patient safety websites because it's not just a website. We have our own patient safety learning website, and that's our corporate site, and people can find out our reports, our blogs, what we're up to. The hub is different. It's not it's not owned by patient safety learning. It's almost as if we are supporting its development. It's a knowledge resource for everyone working in patient safety. So we will bring knowledge together, we will bring communities together for shaping and discussing it. So it's a learning platform, and it's a set of communities to engage on patient safety. the hub is very new. We've only just launched it. So at the moment we're putting our own content on it, or content that we're aware of on patient safety. What will really excite me is when other people start using it and post their own content, their own good ideas, or start asking questions, and it has a vibrancy and a life above and beyond patient safety learning. That's what I'll be excited about. One area that I think we've yet to explore, but there's a huge opportunity, is how patients get engaged with patient safety learning, so how they can contribute to their knowledge and their insight, and that we can learn from kind of non-conventional sources of insight from patient safety, from complaints, from blogs, from people's discussions, from feedback, from insights from near miss. I think the opportunity to learn about patient safety is unlimited from our staff, patients and service users, and we just welcome the hub contributing to that. How it takes off is almost up to the users, and that is very exciting.